Live from the Talking Joe Studios. It's Talking Joe.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe Comics podcast. Now, today we are talking about G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 327, released April the 8th, 2025, which at the time of recording was just a few days ago, just out this last week. The synopsis of this issue was, "Stop the Terror Drome." Cover girl Jinx and Dawn are running out of time to complete a deadly covert op, and it's about to get tougher with an army of blue ninjas on their way. Now, joining me to talk about this issue and discover if the synopsis was indeed accurate and truthful, it's none other than a real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, listeners, viewers. Hello.
Very good. We are live on StreamYard as at the time of recording. So that means that if you want to join in and give us a comment as we go along, then you are welcome to do so, just like Paul Morales has done. Hello, everybody, he says, and hello back to Paul, we say. So typically with the comments, I'll sort of try and flash them up at the screen where they're kind of relating to the thing we're talking about. And if they're potentially not, then I might sort of circle back, as we say, to them at a slightly less disruptive point. Infinite Entertainment is also watching us live.
If you if you post a comment and Mark does not put it on screen that moment or later, it's sort of like sending a letter into Postbox the Pit, where you hopefully have a good feeling that you have communicated to some powers that be, even if your letter isn't printed. So please, if Mark doesn't post your comment, if I don't read it out loud, please don't feel like we're not seeing it. Mark absolutely is. And is deciding that your comment is terrible and isn't worth being on screen. So feel good that he knows that you said hello.
So, catching up from any other business from last time, we were talking about the colorist, Francesco Segala, and his slightly different approach to his work on issue 326, which was the issue that preceded 327. You have to be, really into the detail of the comics to figure out those kind of details. And the 326.
If you don't remember this. Oh, if you don't remember this, I spent several minutes talking about Wolf's Protection and Stormwatch PhD? Stormwatch Team Achilles? I forget. One of the Stormwatch relaunches. And Mark posed a question. Take it away, Mark.
Yeah, so on his Instagram, he was talking about his art for this particular issue, and I posed the question to Francesco Segala, the colorist of the last issue, but basically all of the ARAH issues in the Skybound era, that the colour felt a little bit different, more of a brush effect on the colour tones. So was that Andrew Krahnke doing something in his digital grey tones, showing sort of the shading that was used in the colours, or was it Francesco doing something a little bit different? And Andrew replied that basically it was all on Francesco. And Francesco added, "I used a slightly different digital brush, mainly was inspired by Lee Week's grey tones that look less clean than using a standard round brush. I thought it fitted more Andrew's inks, as this issue is very dynamic. As per the explosions, those look more painted, as I used a little bit more of a splatter brush. Also, there's colour hold on the inks. Not all artists like that. There are inking styles with which it doesn't work. But I thought, again, it fitted Andrew's pages well." And we'll get into it a bit later, probably, on this particular issue. There's certain panels where some of the sort of more active colouring style is a little bit more apparent in the art. So what's next up in terms of some news? Also out this week gone was G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Silent Missions, Crimson Guard issue number 1 of 1, which was released on April the 8th from creator
Gabriel Hardman.
Gabriel Hardman, thank you. I was thinking I'd be able to read what was on the screen, but it's too small for my tiny eyes. So the print was tiny, not my eyes. And we have dropped our most recent episode, which was a great interview with the creator of that very book. And it was a fascinating one. We could have, I think, spent hours just talking about his really fascinating storyboard career.
Other job.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of broke in working on Austin Powers when Austin Powers was, not a sort of a known thing. So, yeah, what a career! What a career he had, and it was a really great conversation that we had with Gabriel Hardman.
There are episodes of Talking Joe where I think it's so neat that I co-host this show, and even though I interviewed a lot of people before I knew what Talking Joe was, because I was finding people for my G.I. Joe history book, Mark has opened up so many additional people who worked or are working on G.I. Joe comics. And I feel like somewhere out there is this like strata of G.I. Joe fans who are psyched that someone like Gabriel Hardman talks for an hour with us about G.I. Joe and storyboarding. And this is not to say that Hardman has not done or wouldn't do other interviews about comics or storyboarding or G.I. Joe specifically, but I feel like we've got this sort of energy because even before the issue was out, right, Mark locked in this interview with Gabriel Hardman, and we did it, and it's edited, and Mark has made it available to all of you to listen to or watch to right after the comic comes out. And I know that if I wasn't a Talking Joe co-host, I would think, man, that Talking Joe, they get all the guys and gals who do G.I. Joe, even the editor. So that's neat.
And I'll add as well, for people paying a lot of attention, that we haven't yet posted a review talking about the Baroness issue. And I know that some people sort of struggle to kind of follow some of the plot elements of that particular issue. So we will get to it. We're just a little bit behind on that particular issue. So it will follow.
I think I don't want to phrase it that way, that we're a little bit behind. I want to say that Skybound is a lot ahead by releasing 7 G.I. Joe comic books, different new G.I. Joe comic books in this month. Can I say one more thing about, in a larger context, Silent Missions, Crimson Guard? I had this moment Tuesday night, where I'd come home from my comic book store, and I had my new pulls for the week, which through some weird sort of miracle was no other comics, no other Image or Dark Horse or Boom or creator owned or like Spider-Man or X-Men or Batman books, just Transformers, G.I. Joe by Larry Hama, and G.I. Joe one shot by someone else who's really interesting, who's never done G.I. Joe before. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is some dream. Like it's my first year of reading comics. Back then, G.I. Joe shipped on the 3rd week. Transformers shipped on the 4th week of the month. And Special Missions was basically ending right then. And so I think Transformers and G.I. Joe at Skybound have been shipping on the same week, but I haven't quite tracked it. But the fact that I was holding not only those, but also this extra issue of G.I. Joe, I thought, what a great time to be a G.I. Joe fan. And I sort of felt like I was in 5th or 6th grade again, getting into comics. Like, my favorite comic, my other favorite comic. Wait, my favorite comic has a bonus issue?
Very good. Yorktown Joe says, just saying hello and wishing you both well. I'm a couple of weeks behind, so I'll listen until the spoilers start. And as a reminder, we are generally pretty spoiler-free up until the point at which I launch into the plot breakdown, which is the element that follows our discussion of the covers in the gallery. And I've created a brand new jingle as well for extra care about just warning you of us launching into spoilers, and so I can now play that when we are about to get into the spoilers. It sounds like this.
Watch out! There's spoilers ahead! Turn back before it's too late!
Mark, help me out. What is that dialogue from?
It's from my mouth. It's all me.
Oh, wait, that's not a movie?
No.
That's not like Monty
No,
Python?
it's me. I'm saying,
Oh.
watch out! There's
Watch out.
spoilers ahead.
The spoilers ahead. No, I understood. I just, that's what a performance and what filtering. Okay. Well, that's funny.
There we go.
I just assumed that was some British guy in like a robe from some 70s movie, standing outside on a hill, perhaps next to a castle.
Yeah, you got 3 out of those 5 things correct.
You recorded it outside? Okay.
And for those of you who have not been paying active attention to the Talking Joe Facebook group, where I've been revealing the variant covers and retailer variant covers as they are being publicly available, then you might not have seen that Peter Smith is doing a variant for each one of the silent missions. So up on the screen at the moment is his Crimson Guard cover. On the Facebook group, we have shared the Baroness, the Crimson Guard, and Zartan. And the remaining 2 have not yet been seen. So just a reminder, in terms of this silent month, we're 2 weeks in with 3 still to go. Next up, well, let's just talk about the Kickstarter compendium, which is now very much live. In one of the most recent updates, they revealed that the covers to the Order of Battle issues, which are available as add-ons, will be converted into black and white posters for that beautiful Chris Mooneyham art. So that will be a nice end.
Does that mean one can buy those posters, or that they're an added extra if you pledge? That
will be an added extra if you pledge. It should automatically be included for the I think it might be all editions, because I think it might be being added into one volume and then another. The first was going to be unlocked on I think $2.1 million. And they have just reached that tier, so that is very cool to see. Actually, I'll be able to share. Before
you change the image, I just want to point out this really cool Chris Mooneyham cover of Cobra characters and vehicles for Order of Battle. Look at the body language on Destro and Baroness, right? If you have a bunch of characters from one faction or another standing around for a cover, that can be totally awesome, and that can be enough. But if you have them standing in a real space together, why not have them slightly sort of bumping up against each other in positive ways, neutral ways, and negative ways? So, Baroness is slightly arching her back, slightly putting her head on Destro's shoulder. He's got both of his hands on her torso, and her hand is up on his head in that sort of lover body language way. And then look at Road Pig, who's got his cinder block on a stick over his shoulders, like you would with a baseball bat, and his sort of smirk as he's looking down at, I think he's looking at Zarana. But he's actually got a smirk on his face. So great. All right. What were you going to put on screen? I was
going to put on screen the actual Kickstarter itself.
Folks, we're just going to spend the next 2 hours watching the numbers tick up very slowly but steadily. We're actually not going to talk about G.I. Joe 327. We're just going to ogle as 2.1 million becomes 2.1, slightly more than that million.
Yeah. So it is 2.103 currently. And in the most recent update number 16, they said that they will be doing another round of Order of Battle character and vehicle voting. So on the update page, they have got a link to the voting list. So they've got a list of who is included from Joe's, Cobras, and vehicles. and they will be adding 3 more Cobras, 3 more G.I. Joes, and a vehicle and a base for each faction.
Can you scroll up an inch? Was one of the options? Did I just see that? Did it say Globulus? Scroll up a little bit.
Yeah, they've said that there will be a Globulus character art included.
Okay. Well, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not part of the Hamaverse really, but as long as they,
he is a G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Character.
So in the G.I. Joe character selection, which G.I. Joe character would you like to see in the Joe book? So was there any particular ones that you wanted to see in there, Tim?
Oh, they really have
They've
all
basically
of them.
listed everyone. You can see there's Candy Apple, Captain Min, the boat guy who transports Fred to Cobra Island. Cool Breeze. Oh, Cool Breeze has got to be in there, hasn't he? Okay, I'm going to collect. I'm just gonna say kudos to Alex Antone and Caitlin Chappell and Diana Davis, presumably those 3, for culling various internet lists of G.I. Joe characters to make sure that this was so complete.
Who's
Wreckage was this? I think Tiger Force repaint of Firefly as a G.I. Joe good guy. So
I think of Wreckage as a G.I. Joe Extreme.
I'm going to go with those 2. And which Cobra would you like to? I've got a third one.
You know what? I actually am not voting. I'm sort of just happy to let it happen, and because I would be happy with any character, whether it's a character who's well known or more obscure. Any drawing that's sort of official in this whole process is just going to be exciting for me. So the crusty old crow says Wreckage was inspired by Sabretooth.
Yeah, Sabretooth I think was going to be one of the original Tiger Force repaints, so it's sort of very similar. And Justin Taylor points out that Globulus was one of the trading cards in the original Kickstarter, and they're reusing the art from those. Good point.
Okay, so when the second Kickstarter was announced, they said something like there'll be a way more like a pinup book where the trading cards from the first Kickstarter will be available again and bigger. And I thought, cool, I appreciate that, because as much as I like those trading cards, they're very small, and trading cards to me like go in a 9-pocket sleeve in a 3-ring binder in a very specific place in my home. Whereas comic books, you can't tell, but there's a stack of comics there. There's a couple comics here. There's like one hiding behind this red thing. I'm holding one. There's like 2 over there. Mark, are we going to watch you pick all these out live? We really want to do this right now?
Well, we're almost done. So where am I? What should we pick for the Cobra base, and then I'll hit submit. Let's see. Pom pom gun. I wonder if there's a bias towards let's do that. Submit. I'm submitting.
I bet there's a bias towards vehicles from 82 to 86.
I was going to say, is there a bias to the earlier on in the alphabet? Because as you're scrolling down top to bottom, you're like, oh, that's a good one. I'll select that before you get all the way to the bottom.
Oh,
I bet you there is.
Yeah,
that's
true.
If you were to put it in a graph, the beginning of the alphabet might have a little bit of more. We'd have to properly statistically analyze that, but to be sure. But here we go. So that was that. Back to our regular service. So also on their updates, they've been sharing some of the lovely artwork that has been commissioned for the Order of Battle mostly by Chris Mooneyham. So we've got a Mobat, the Hiss Tank, Saw Viper.
He is coloring these as well.
Oh right, yeah, interesting.
So this is new because Mooneyham has not colored any of his pages. Those have all been Francesco Segala. And Mooneyham has not colored any of his covers. Those have been Francesco Segala. Yeah. These are great.
And then the most recent one was a Ron Wagner Beachhead. And what I was new to StreamYard, they've added a widget for voting. So I'm just going to test this out. The widget says will you be backing the Kickstarter compendiums? Yes or no. So let's see if this works. If you want to vote, then stick up what you think. There we go. We've got one vote for a yes. 100% of our viewership will be.
This is going to be old news or an old question. But since we just talked about something like this Ron Wagner Beachhead drawing from the previous Kickstarter, Ron Wagner colored this. Yes?
I assume so. I think he has been known to do some digital coloring of his own.
When he sells prints at conventions, they're convention drawings that he did that he colored.
So that was the poll number 1 that I created. So I'll stop there with the one with the 100% vote. Oh no!
Ooh, we got a split. The longer you leave that up, the less embarrassing it is. Because if it only looks like one person is watching the live stream, then I wish we hadn't done the widget. But now it looks like 3 people are watching the stream, and I'm only slightly less embarrassed. Although I was telling both my wife and a friend this. I was saying I would keep doing Talking Joe even if we had sort of no listenership. No viewership, because I do it for the audience, but I also do it for me.
Yeah, I'm not too sure actually what the poll looks like for the viewer. It might be that you just need to type in the number to submit if there isn't a specific button that has popped up. So if you wanted a yes, a 1 for yes, you just type in 1. I think that's how it works anyway. And I created a second poll. I'll stop that one.
Can I guess? Do you like StreamYard polls? Yes or no?
It is. Are polls a good idea? Yes, I love polls. Or 2, no, and I would never answer a poll. So I'll leave that up for a minute as well. So moving. All
right. So what's the next?
The next bit of news is the most recent Hama Files edition. So we've got 1 vote so far there for no, and I would never ever answer a poll, which is great. So G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue number 31 is the latest for a Hama Files edition, and that is it's basically my favorite issue ever of G.I. Joe. It's the one where Snake Eyes is defending himself against an attacking squad of Destro, Firefly, and Fred in his cabin.
I am learning something new right now, this very moment that we are streaming this episode. I always assumed that this cover was at least inked by Klaus Janson, if not also penciled by him. And the poses and the penciling didn't quite look like Janson, but there's such a weird grab bag of cover artists for the first 4 years of the G.I. Joe comic when it's not Mike Zeck that I thought, it's probably Janson. But according to Skybound, because you've got this solicit on screen, and Skybound would probably know because they've either got an image of the original artwork or they have sourced this from someone who would know. And I'm not saying that's me. It's not me. According to this 1-page solicit in the Image Comics catalog, G.I. Joe issue number 31, the cover is by Michael Golden and David Mazzucchelli, which is
surprising.
Okay, so I think Golden.
After Action Report,
I think Golden is.
It is credited to Klaus Janson and Frank Springer.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think Golden is at all involved in this cover. I think that is an error. Nothing about this looks like Golden. Not the anatomy or the poses. Certainly not the inking and the finish. I would like to think I'm a little bit of a student of David Mazzucchelli because once I was a student of David Mazzucchelli. But I have paid a lot of attention to his work over the years. And I don't just mean superhero comics. I also mean City of Glass and Rubber Blanket and Asterios Polyp. And so this could be him because he broke into Marvel in the early 80s and did like an issue of X Factor and an issue of Indiana Jones before Daredevil. But this does just sort of look like Klaus Janson. Like, look at that face. Come on. Look at that face on Destro. That's a Klaus Janson face. So I think these Skybound credits here on this image catalog are either half wrong or all wrong. But I am perfectly willing. Who did you say After Action Report said it was?
Klaus
Springer
Janson and Frank Springer. But I think definitely over a Hama layout.
Yes.
Interesting. But then also another glorious Chris Mooneyham new piece of art for the variant. So Destro is on a manhunt. His target, Snake Eyes. He'll stop at nothing to collect the ultimate trophy. 2 exclamation marks.
Dun, dun, dun. Think that the word Destro here and the word Snake Eyes are part of the actual artwork that Mooneyham drew those in by hand. Very nice font treatment there. This is a super fun cover, and I really love it when new covers for reprints, like Marvel Tales, which ran for 30 years and reprinted Amazing Spider-Man issues. I really love comparing, or like classic X-Men. I love comparing new covers done later that are a different take on the original cover or sort of an alternate scene from that issue. And this is not literally Destro standing over Snake Eyes, but thematically it's the same idea. And there's all this white here, so it feels really different. Whereas, and this is so graphic, this is about like shapes and targeting sites, whereas the actual cover is like an actual moment in a room, in a cabin, in the high Sierras with Destro standing over Snake Eyes. And okay, I know, right, of course. We've seen Chris Mooneyham color his own work on these Hama Files covers.
Right.
That's it. That's where the New Order of Battle artwork drawn and colored by Mooneyham is not 100% startling and different. We've seen a little bit of this already. Okay.
Very good. So that leads us into the issue that we're talking about today. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, issue 327, brought to us by the team of writer Larry Hama, artist Andrew Krahnke, rhymes with donkey, colorist Francesco Segala with Sabrina del Grosso, letterer Pat Brousseau, editor Alex Antone, rhymes with phone, assistant editor Caitlin Chappell. As an aside, if you want to see Alex Antone and Caitlin Chappell on video, they've done a video on YouTube, I think or on the social medias anyway, of Skybound social medias, where they are blind ranking 10 G.I. Joe characters, which is a thing they're doing to promote the Kickstarter. So yeah, if you're interested to see what they look like, then that's a place that you can see them, as well as obviously.
No, don't watch those. Watch the 2 interviews we've done with Alex Antone on Talking Joe. That's how you know what he looks like, and drive our viewership up, folks.
Very good. Publication designed Jillian Crab, production design Richard Mercardo, creative consultant is Diana Davis.
Can I say, is this the first time the back cover has had covers, or did that happen last month?
I'm not too sure what they've been doing with that.
Well, I want to say thumbs up to Jillian Crab, publication design, because for the first 2 years at Skybound, Real American Hero, the back cover was just this. Okay, that was last month. All right, was just this star, and like the G.I. Joe logo. And now they're doing a version of what all the Energon Universe comics have been doing, where the main cover and all the variant covers are on the back, and it says collect all these covers. And I so want the back cover of a comic book to be activated either as like a wraparound image or an ad for the publisher or some video game from the 80s, as if I just bought a back issue from the 80s. And I don't want it to just be all black with the G.I. Joe logo, IDW, or some one color with like a giant star and the G.I. Joe logo, Skybound. And I really like seeing the other covers, even if they're a little bit small. So thank you for the change, Skybound.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A is drawn by Lee Weeks and colored by Dave Stewart. And this is exciting because Dave Stewart is a top colorist in comics. And he's done a little bit of G.I. Joe, right, in the form of a Silent Missions issue. But like this is, I think, basically sort of his first mainline work. And this cover, Dave Stewart is working on top of Lee Weeks's inking, but also a little bit of ink wash from Lee Weeks. Lee Weeks has this gray tone where he has designated on Jinx and on CoverGirl's body and on Sherlock's arms, and then this sort of outer sky around the circle where there's this darker tone. And so Dave Stewart has a little bit less to do, but this still requires a smart colorist brain in order to pick the right colors and not overdo it. And this cover is, in its coloring, restrained, right? There's no rendering. There's just like two tones for everything. There's red and dark red on Jinx. There's orange and dark orange for CoverGirl's hair. I really like this cover. The colors are flat, so it reminds me of how comic books used to be colored. And there's this really striking circle that's behind our four characters who are engaging in battle. We've got CoverGirl and Jinx, who are sort of mid-leap. CoverGirl's firing a pistol, both pistols. Jinx has got two swords. Standing on the ground a little bit behind them is Sherlock, who's yelling and firing two pistols. And then behind them is... Who's that?
I think that is Black Cat, the new G.I. Joe hacker.
Okay, who's not in this issue? Okay, because it's downrange who's in this issue. Greg Augustin is just now realizing that Black Hat doesn't actually wear a black hat.
Unlike Sherlock, who does?
But the Green Lanterns all have green lanterns.
No, they have green rings.
Black Cat here has a full machine gun. And there's a strong diagonal to this cover because of sort of if you look at the line of CoverGirl's spine and then you look at the curve of Jinx's spine and then what one of those swords is doing as it crosses over the E of the G.I. Joe logo, and you look at the blasts that CoverGirl is firing with the left arm, her right arm, and then you look at all the smoke, right? So you have sort of this like X happening on the cover, but behind everyone is this giant circle. And then on the bottom, like eighth of the cover, you have this sort of negative space indication of sort of battlefield debris. And it's really vague. And it just becomes this one background shape of ground with some debris and then this giant circle. And I don't think the circle is the moon or a spotlight. I think it's just a compositional element that kind of reminds you of the moon or a spotlight. And it's just different and cool. It's just different and cool. So you have these characters who are sort of bracketed by this very dark gray and black smoke. You have these blasts that are these like sort of light desaturated oranges. Dave Stewart is making a couple decisions here. So like on Jinx, Dave Stewart is just applying one red, and where that red covers Lee Weeks' gray tone, it becomes a darker red. But on CoverGirl's hair, Lee Weeks applied no gray tone. And so where you see CoverGirl's hair get a little darker, Dave Stewart is choosing to have a like shade color for that orange. Barking Fridge says, Dave Stewart of Eurythmics covers. Here comes the rain again. Now stuck in my head. Thanks. Hilarious. It is a different person. Just like, speaking of Green Lanterns, Jon Stewart is both a Green Lantern and also a TV personality, comedian, actor, and also a guy who works at a radio station here in Boston.
And Tim Finn is a podcast presenter, a comic book shop owner, an executive producer of a YouTube show, and a writer of a book, an editor of a comic, and a frontman of a New Zealand rock band. Yes, all of those things. Anyway, I like this cover. And then
Greg Augustin tells us that Dave Stewart is also a legendary baseball pitcher. I read comics, so I don't know sports. This cover has 4 women on it, which is a little unusual for a G.I. Joe. No man. Cover B is from Lee Weeks' original artwork. It's just inks with some of these gray tones. It's really striking. And again, you get this very strong diagonal, which is somewhat softened by this giant circle happening behind everything. In black and white, the circle starts to read a little bit more like sort of the moon and a spotlight, but it doesn't physically make sense as a spotlight, and it also doesn't physically make sense as a moon. And I'm totally okay with just a cool graphical shape happening in the cover.
That's no moon, it's a space station.
Cover C is the 1:10 ratio variant. This is painted by Steve Beach. It is 4 Dreadnoks in and on the Thunder Machine. We've got Torch, Buzzer, and Ripper outside, and then Thrasher inside. The background color is all yellow. There's some fire happening, which is blocked by the G.I. Joe logo because Torch is holding his torch upward and it's blasting some flame into the air. There's a little bit of a spatter on the bottom right and a little bit of speed lines showing that this Thunder Machine is definitely coming at us. Something I've been thinking about with these Steve Beach painted covers, and the theme here is, was it Joes of War?
Gears of Joe?
Gears of Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will never remember this. What I've been thinking about these is, I love the idea that someone said we should do a series of covers that spotlights vehicles because G.I. Joe is half vehicles, even though we don't talk about it that way. We talk about characters' code names, their cool costumes, and what they do and want. At the same time, I'm aware that G.I. Joe vehicles are all toys. And if you draw a G.I. Joe vehicle with like slightly proportions that go one way or the other, it might look like a toy. It might look like a little model that you have in your hand or that's sitting on a desk in front of you. And one of the things that's neat about seeing G.I. Joe vehicles painted is that if you get the textures right, it looks like real metal and real enamel paint and like real dirt and, real headlights. So I really like the finish on all these Steve Beach paintings. I do think the Thunder Machine in my mind is a little bit sort of hulkier. It's a little bit wider. It's a little bit more menacing. So when I look at this, it feels a little bit like if I had taken mine and taken a photo of the toy with these 3 guys on it. But I still really like the painting, and I appreciate this series of covers a lot.
My one criticism of this cover, I think, would be that the Gatling guns on the front of the vehicle look a little bit undersized here. I think they could do with being a bit bigger, a bit more imposing. Yeah.
Mark, how many sexy Baroness retailer variant covers? It's funny. You posted a cover on the Talking Joe Facebook group of the Baroness in all white, and you said G.I. Joe 21 variant cover, and I had already started typing my full comment like, Baroness isn't even in issue 21. Silent Interlude doesn't involve her. And then that's the Energon Universe 21. That's not another reprint of Silent Interlude. And the Energon Universe G.I. Joe series has now gone long enough that there are, 21 issues, which have a number that match other G.I. Joe comic book series. Anyway,
21 issues, all featuring the Baroness on the front cover.
Why are there so many covers of Baroness?
So there are 2 retailer variants for this particular issue 3 to 7. The first of which is by an artist called Flops, Flops, which is from 616 Comics. There is a color version and a black and white foil variant. It is a somewhat understated, almost animated style version of the Baroness in a spotlight. Yeah, in a red spotlight.
She's standing in front of a red circle.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in front of a red circle.
There's a
holding 2 guns,
there's a version
an AK-47 and an Uzi.
There's a version where she's what's that behind the Uzi?
Is it don't know. Is it a sound chip that she can plug into something to make a sound? Or
it does look like looks a little bit like a miniature suitcase that's been opened and is floating right behind her shoulder. What is that? Oh, I know.
Especially clear.
She's wearing. There's part of it behind her waist on the other side. It's like I think it's a big case for the AK-47, but there's no strap over her torso in front of her. I think this case is just plugged into the hole in her back.
Could be.
Anyway, and then I guess there's a second version without the color. Yeah, but still just the red on her, and then like foil and shiny.
And then the next one is Cedric Poula, who by now has done quite a number of Baroness variant covers. This one is for David Ryder Comics. It was dropped on 8th, I think. I believe that it might be sold out by now. It was limited to 444 copies, he says, and was available from the David Ryder website as well as his Whatnot.
This is a cover for G.I. Joe 327?
Yeah, featuring the Baroness in a white snow costume.
Because there's so many Arctic and Antarctic scenes in Sierra Gordo as CoverGirl leads a mission into the jungle. So wait, what am I getting mixed up? Was there a Baroness in white G.I. Joe Energon Universe 21 cover announced this week? That's very similar to this?
Yeah, you're right.
That's making me slightly aggravated.
Yeah, there was a Baroness issue number 21 cover also revealed this last week, which was quite confusing, I guess, because it's so similar.
I've got an idea. Remember in the 90s when like Wildstorm and Extreme and maybe even Top Cow did some swimsuit issues, right? There's like the Homage Studios or like the Wildstorm. You'd see like there'd be like a Jim Lee cover with Zealots from the Wildcats or Fairchild from Gen 13 in a bathing suit. And then like, there'd be like one J. Scott Campbell drawing. And then the rest would be the artists at Wildstorm who were like, they were training, who like were not drawing the main books. Or like the guy did a fill-in on Stormwatch. And it's like, oh, it's 6 of the background heroes from Stormwatch, like standing around in a swimming pool. Well, that's not as exciting, but okay. I think that there should be a Baroness pinup book. There should be a comic book. It should be 48 pages. And
but wherever would they find the images to fill up such a book, Tim?
And just think, like, you could like, Baroness could be multiplied by the power of Baroness. It could be like Baroness squared, because this 48-page, like $7.99 Baroness pinup book with all these variant covers from the last 10 years could have retailer variant covers. And either that, or there should be like a Baroness one shot, and it's like 48 pages, and there's a 25-page lead story, and then they pick like the best of the variant covers, and then they could get me upset. It could be like Real American Hero, but half those covers reprinted in the back could be Energon Universe ones. I'm like, it's not the same universe. Anyway, I just, I'm so jealous because all these variants, they're in such limited quantities and I don't get to own them. But if only Skybound would do some weird stunt, put them all in one place.
I do a fact check on myself. It isn't issue number 21. It is actually a cover for the Baroness silent issue by David Diaz, who had released this image of Baroness in this white snow costume as well. And I don't know whether there might be something in the ether trying to promote this particular snow look to Baroness. I think she's appeared a couple of times before, maybe as a Mike Mayhew variant, and also a John Royal version. And there have been rumors that perhaps Hasbro are looking at doing a Baroness this white snow costume. So maybe it's being put out there into the ether, or maybe it's just a coincidence.
Did Hasbro do a white Darth Vader action figure like 10 years ago? And was that based on one of those like What If miniseries of Star Wars comics?
I mean, surely it must exist. Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that. And they only did it once, and they don't do it every month. So
Shane
Shane
asks-
Simic says,
Go on.
Are there any artists whose credits only list Baroness variant covers? That's an interesting question. I think the answer actually might be yes. But if you are a retailer, if you're a store or a website, Diana Davis says, I mean, although her head is backward and she's wearing full makeup and no coat or hat in a snow scene, and her trigger discipline sort of sucks, this cover shows her in a possible pose. That's right. She's definitely got her finger almost already pulling that. Wait, is her hair's like blowing in the wind through the little hole where you put your finger for the trigger? Maybe it's just above it, but it's blocked by an out of focus snowflake. I forgot what I was going to... Oh, yeah, Shane's question. If you're a retailer, if you're a store or a website and you sell comics and you contact Skybound and you say, we would like to have a retailer variant, Skybound will probably say yes, and you make your deal, and you have the minimum number of copies, and Skybound is happy to like provide you with some artists. And now Diana says, so now she's got this is the other one. So now she's got a coat with a hood and her head is forward, but the trigger discipline still sucks, and her buns must be freezing only wearing lycra to sit on that icy wall. Diana, I just want to, I mean, wasn't Gung Ho in issue, was it 12? Marvel number 12? Like Gung Ho's not wearing, like a coat. Anyway, if you're a retailer and you are doing a deal with Skybound, you can propose an artist that that you have in mind. And it may be someone who has only started doing comics, who hasn't done comics before. I think in some cases you could slyly sort of do like your assistant manager who really likes to draw and is pretty good. And, Skybound wants to make money off of this brand. And I think there's pretty good brand management on these covers. None of them are like insultingly inaccurate or bad. I think some of them are like subtly like not a fit for G.I. Joe. But Diana says, yeah, Gung Ho was shirtless in the snow. And the other Joes commented how crazy that was. Right. So this is just a cover with Baroness in the snow. And if this could be a full issue, I bet someone would say, Baroness, aren't you cold? Cool. And then she'd say something like, well, Destro developed this special suit for me at Mars, so it can be as tight and revealing as I want it to be and as warm as I need it to be. We should probably talk about this comic.
Yeah, and I did promise that when I would get into spoilery territory, I would play the jingle again. So here we go.
Watch out! There's spiders ahead! Turn back before it's too late!
And with that said, let's get into a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
In the mountains of Sierra Gordo, blue ninjas disguised as rebels have captured a Joe team of Dawn, Jinx, and Covergirl who are disguised as nuns. But with some support from the sniper team of Downrange and Sherlock, who aren't disguised at all, they get away. The Joe team enters a mine which contains an ancient pyramid with a terror drome inside, plus a multitude of booby traps. The Joe rear guard take the blue ninjas from behind while the Joes fight out inside. They set up explosives on the terror drome, but then they change their mind. We end on a cliffhanger as the cyborg is about to shoot an RPG, setting off reactive plates that could incinerate everything in the corridors. Dun dun dun, to be continued, probably.
Mark, is this new, that reactive armor that blows up when it's like struck? Is this a military thing that Larry Hama, who researches when he writes, found and included in this story? Is this a fantastical thing that he's invented for this story? Or is this a thing that has existed in G.I. Joe and I forgot?
So I don't recall it ever being used in G.I. Joe before, to the best of my memory. In terms of, is it a thing that exists in reality? I didn't do the research on that one, I'm afraid. So I couldn't say, but maybe... Maybe it's a real thing.
So Jinx says, did you notice that some of these wall panels are explosive reactive armor? And Dawn says, yeah, I noticed their reactive armor, going to make a much bigger bang. You know, this is sort of a promise, right? This is like Chekhov's gun. Like, I sure hope these walls blow up in the next issue, because Larry Hama has placed a series of explosive walls in front of me in the first part of his story.
Matt chimes in with the comment that reactive armor is real. There we go.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, look, we've got an even more definitive answer here from Barking Fridge. Reactive armor is most effective against shaped charges and hardened kinetic energy penetrators. When a shaped charge strikes the upper plate of the armor, it detonates the inner explosive.
Cool. Well, now I have additional knowledge. Mark, do you have any overall big picture reactions to this issue?
I've got kind of two directions for my big picture. One was I've most of these last few issues, it feels like a lot of issues in a row. I've kind of commented on the kind of the gimmick of the issue, like, you know, it's divided into quarters and it's all Cobra, with each Cobra faction having, as you know, same page count. I think there's an obvious kind of story gimmick for this issue.
I know. All the Cobra characters are men.
That was it.
Okay.
So yeah, putting a finer point on it, the G.I. Joe team are all females. We've got a team of two sub teams, the sort of the front team, Jinx, Cover Girl, and is it Helix the third? No, Dawn. Oh, and I got it. Dawn, Jinx, Cover Girl.
Yes.
As the front team, and then Sherlock and downrange as the sort of backup sniper team. So a team of 5 Lady Joes. So I guess, you know, Hama having fun, sort of highlighting an all-female Joe team, which we've seen, I think, before. Was it issue 222? Am I remembering that correctly? One of the issues.
Black check. It's 228.
Had an issue that just featured female characters and no males at all, which is different to this issue because we do have Duke and Co off screen on screen, but off site at the pit, and we've also got a bunch of Cobras who, you know, I guess masculine, but also cybernetic, so somewhat robotic.
You said you had 2 directions.
So that's that was the gimmick, and then overall thoughts. I mean, I guess my sort of top down was I was slightly disappointed by the issue again, because from the point of we had this big Cobra threat set up in, I think it was issue 323, which still hasn't kind of been followed up in terms of like seeing all of those great Cobra characters like Scrap Iron, the twins, Copperhead, Firefly, etc., setting up that brand new status quo, and that hasn't been followed up on. And it feels like this story is a little bit more in the kind of the world of the, you know, the type of story that we saw in the IDW era, where there was a lot of you know, action against the blue ninjas in sort of jungle environments. There was a sort of similar thing where there was a Joe team up against blue ninjas in disguise in the jungle in a terror drome. So it felt like it was not so much sort of pushing a new plot that we've not seen before, and I think sort of just the art on this one didn't blow me away. I think the storytelling was you know, fine, and there was nothing horrendous in there by any means, but you know, against the high level watermark of the Chris Mooneyhams, it wasn't quite at that same level, although, you know, I think we have been spoiled in terms of the level of polish that we've been getting from this book. So in terms of this issue overall, it's not, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's quite as strong from the both the story and the art perspective that we have seen for a good chunk of the run.
I'll pick up from that second thought. I also thought that Andrew Krahnke did a good job this issue. The issue was consistent. All the pages had the same level of detail and polish, but overall, all of the pages felt like there was a little less information than even the last issue. And I don't say that cynically. My guess is Krahnke had less time to draw this issue. And either it's like he had 3 weeks to draw this issue, whereas he had 4 to draw the previous one, or something like that. And someone once said to me, I think when I was in art school, I think I was a sophomore, and a senior said to me, a professional is someone who does the best they can with the time they have. And that's what I was thinking about with this issue. And I have thought about issues of comics where the first pages look great, and then the later pages by the same artist, there's a little less information. They look a little rushed. And that's disappointing in a different way, because you feel let down. You sort of, it's not as good as it goes. Whereas this starts at a certain level and stays there the whole time. And so the stage is set sort of on the first page. And this was really occurring to me on the second and third pages, because there are just a little bit of backgrounds, and the backgrounds that are there aren't super detailed. And you might counter, well, Tim, it's like a boulder and some foliage. You can draw those with a few lines, just sort of some indications, and maybe comparing this to like, you know, a bombed out war zone, muddy road with like a big armored personnel carrier from the previous issue is not a fair comparison. Sure. And I don't actually need, just as a standard, Andrew Krahnke to draw every tree trunk and leaf and every sort of bit of dirt and rock and stone on the ground. But overall, this issue does just look, I don't want to say rushed, but drawn more efficiently. And I think it's really good news that Krahnke still does, again, if I'm guessing correctly here, such a good job with less time, that it all looks solid and all the storytelling is clear. And there's still like pep in everything. My other sort of top down reaction was that the sort of the final page, the final 2 pages, the like cliffhanger and the stakes were disappointing. And I felt like I wanted either sort of one more thing to happen in the final 2 pages, or like one more page so that a thing could happen. And I'm excited for the next issue, whether it starts a moment later or 5 minutes later or an hour later. But the actual sort of final page and final panel, you know, it's okay. It ranks amongst like the bottom of the sort of most exciting G.I. Joe cliffhangers.
It feels somewhat abrupt rather than necessarily such a strong cliffhanger of like, oh, what's going to happen next month? It's a bit more like it ends in the middle of the scene instead. Yes,
it feels like it ends in the middle of the scene. And I thought, okay, well, on the last panel of the second to last page, one of the bad guys says, I'm taking out the 2 behind us, and has an RPG. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, okay, if he had fired it, now this thing is heading towards the 1 Joe or the 3 Joes and might hit them, or might hit a wall or behind them and injure them, or will probably hit that reactive armor. And then there's this big explosion. And that felt like the thing that was missing. That was the salt on my sandwich that added that extra bit of flavor. And I thought, darn it, I wish I just, one more panel, one more bit of drawing, one sound effect, one word balloon, like the rocket's fired. And then to be continued. Oh no, what's going to happen? But on the flip, Barking Fridge says, reminded me of the issue where the Joes went south, discovered a terror drome, and first ran into Cobra Revenge robots. Can't recall the exact issue number, but before Grunt was captured, 200 and something. Diana says 196 or so. So then I was thinking okay, well, it's a bummer when I get on Talking Joe and I'm like, this issue wasn't as good as it should have been. I'm disappointed. How do I phrase this in a positive way? And then I realized, and a little bit of this is that magic of wait, 2 G.I. Joe comics came out in the Hama continuity and Transformers and nothing else. I have a ton of other stuff to read this week because of our Hayden Sherman signing at my store. But it occurred to me, okay, so Lee Weeks is doing the covers. And this cover is all flat colors. There aren't shiny gradients like was happening at IDW. And 2 of the main 2 characters on this cover are characters from the 80s. And so between Lee Weeks and the color and the characters, this cover feels like old school. And I thought, okay, well, like the first page, we start in media res, right? Like in the middle of the thing, the Joe team has already infiltrated undercover and already been captured, all before the first panel, which I love and feels like a thing that Hama was doing in the issue number like 90s when I started. And we've got some new Joes, and we've got these like scary sort of Cobra ninja robots, and we've got a scene where the Joes take their costumes off and they're in their costumes. And then we got a panel where they rattle off the guns that they're carrying. And we cut back to the pit and we see some other Joes, and some Techno Vipers show up, and not a Saw Viper shows up. And there's a step pyramid, which is buried under a mountain, and it has a Terror Drome in it, and the Terror Drome has been modified to have this giant missile silo in it. And this is all explained like on a monitor from a couple of Joes before like the Joes who were there fully see it. And there's this like very sort of DuckTales, Indiana Jones, like ancient door opening. And I love, this is such a Larry Hama line. I love this. Dawn says, the slab of rock is moving, and you see a crack where it's starting to open. And then the next panel, we're inside and Dawn's coming in, and Dawn says, it's on a pivot. We can get inside. And it's like, Larry Hama is thinking that level of detail where it's like, no, it's like it's a haunted pyramid. It's a haunted archaeological site. There's treasure. Cobra's there. There's a bomb, whatever it is. Like they can get in, you push a button and the door opens, or you push the door, or you blow up the door. But in this case, it's like, no, if this only swung out, they couldn't get in. And Dawn is spelling it out like, no, we can get in because it swings in. So I realized with the level of action in this issue, there's a bunch of shooting, and there's a ninja on the cover with 2 swords who kicks one of these robots in the face, and all of this other combination of elements that I just rattled off. It actually feels like an issue that I bought in 1990. I mean, I don't mean specifically, I mean in a general way. Like, yes, I know Revanche is here. Yes, I know Black Hat's on the cover, and Sherlock's here, and Downrange is here. And it's like, no, I don't want it to be Downrange. I want it to be low light. Like, whatever. All of the elements here actually feel like sort of an older G.I. Joe comic, and how Hama's bouncing from thing to thing. And that tickled me and makes up for the underwhelming final page.
You mentioned the booby trap, so let's flick to that. We get this moment where Jinx steps on a very tropey looking booby trap. Step, click, step goes down, and then gronk. There's this big block that swings down. The ninjas jump out of the way. Dawn cuts the rope, and then it slides to a halt by Cover Girl. That was cutting it a tad too close for my taste. And then a couple of pages later, the Saw Viper comments upon the fact that the booby trap has been triggered. So it's, I guess, indicating it, that this Revanche team is responsible for the booby trap. And they call it a booby trap. There's no technical jargon here. The intruders have bypassed the booby trap. Security team, the intruders have evaded the booby trap in Corridor Alpha. You have to climb over the obstacle to pursue. What did you think of this booby trap? Was it a bit too Indiana Jones-y, tropey? I mean, I think they do even sort of use that word. Joe. Careful, Jinx. We don't want to set off any ancient booby traps like Indiana Joe.
No, I thought it was fine. Actually, the thing that bothered me about it is that here on page 14, Mooneyham has drawn a differently sized and shaped giant block of stone than the one that 3 pages earlier swung from the ceiling and that the Joes stopped. This one looks like a giant chiclet, whereas the one 3 pages earlier looks more like
longer,
this,
more like a brick shape.
Yeah, like a brick or like a candy bar. It's longer. But objection, Your Honor, overruled. I'll allow it.
And also they're having to climb over it because it's blocking the tunnel. whereas the kind of the camera angle that they're showing sort of is. I mean, I guess the no prize is there's a wall that
yes,
the
camera is
is
seeing
somehow
through the wall.
Yeah.
Yes, where that red line and that red box is. If the wall were there, we wouldn't see Jinx, Dawn, and we wouldn't see half the stone. So cheated the camera angle here. I had
a thought about the art, which I was meant to mention up towards the front, which I didn't say out loud, but it sort of struck me, particularly with this issue, that the slightly more cartoony style from Krahnke is not a million miles away from Brian Shearer, who did, I think, 2 issues of the IDW era, as well as many covers.
Yeah. He did that Law Spotlight issue.
Right.
Was that 2?
Yeah. And a Duke sort of flashback issue as well.
Was that like, I forget what numbers those were.
270 something, was it?
Yeah. I always get mixed up because there was a run of character spotlight issues.
277. It was
there was a run of character spotlight issues after 250, and then another one after 275.
Yeah. He did an issue for both, I think.
Something that's happening here with there are 3 or so occasions where the Joes take out the Revanche Blue Ninjas, and the entire background is like a blood red, like a bright red. And I love that. And that's not something we see in a lot of comics in the last 30 years, but it is the kind of thing you'd see in a lot of comics in the earlier part of the previous century. And it just accentuates the violence and the shock of it, and is sort of a different sort of cover for like a lack of background. You know, we're seeing one right now on screen where downrange is firing. A little too late for that, Cyborg. Spack, spack, spack. Oh, I forgot to look up what a 40 hertz 40 hertz tone would sound like. I was going to play it out of my speakers. Oh, neat.
And this particular page, Krahnke did share his process pictures, which is always a delight to see. So starting from the layouts, and I think most of this is being done digitally. Layouts on this page, to more detailed pencils, to inks with definite digital grey sound effects, to colours from Segala, with a close-up there of one of the sound effects, which is sort of hand-lettered and then included in his art. This one is a blam with a silent H, perhaps, unless you can figure out a way to pronounce the H. Blam. I'm
going to look at my notes and, okay. Page 4, panel 4. I got all excited because they're talking about how they're going to communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherlock says, "That's a Roger, downrange. I'll confirm with Dawn on the VHS." And VHS is one of my favorite acronyms in all of the English language because it stands for Video Head System. This is my favorite of the 1980s home video formats, right? It is inferior to Betamax, but it won. But that's not what they're talking about. That's not. This must be
something
very
else.
Very high, because VHF is very high frequency. So would VHS here be like very high satellite? Anyway, this is the kind of thing that I thought would normally have an asterisk and a footnote spelling it out. I'm okay. I'm not counting this as an error. I'm not upset. I just wonder what it means.
But yeah, both of us didn't know what it meant. Presumably not VHS that we all know. Whereas on the subsequent page, they have got LPCS, Leather Personnel Carrier, aka Boots, which is one that I don't know if we'd remember from previous times, but it's definitely been called out in previous issues. Here we go. Matt is sad about Betamax not winning the battle of VHS and Betamax. Barking Fridge coming in with a very useful explanation here from MIT. A decade after scientists in the Hightower Institute for Learning and Memory first began testing whether simulation of the brain's 40 hertz gamma frequency rhythms treats Alzheimer's in mice. What? I don't think that's an explanation, is it?
So while we've been talking the last minute, over in a different browser window, I have played two different, just for myself in my earphones, two different 40 hertz tones off of YouTube. And they're both low rumbles. I had thought from the context that it would be like the beep that happens during the SMPTE Academy countdown leader before movies, like the number with the circle and the line goes around it, 5, 4, 3. And when it hits the 2, it goes beep. I thought it might be that because when I see these revamped robots making this scree sound effect, to me, it's like scree, it's like higher pitched. It sounds like something mechanical screaming. And based on my very limited research, 40 hertz is something that you can hear, but it's more of a low rumble. And I think if it's too loud or if it's too long, it might drive you nuts or do some damage. But it is not like a breaking glass sound effect or a bird squawking sound effect. It's more of like a tank rumbling in the distance sound effect. And so flipping to page 18, where it gets mentioned. Oh, that'll be the second to last page. I love the sound they make when they get blown apart, like the 40 hertz tone of death. Okay. So I guess I'll just say I don't fully understand that. I like it. I don't fully understand it because, again, the sound that I think I'm hearing I turned it off through my headphones. And both those YouTube videos had a little warning, like have your volume low. Maybe it's sort of the the concussive sound of a robot blowing up rather than the sort of shrieking sound of a robot with a voice making a dying vocalization.
Yeah, I don't think they're saying necessarily that the noise of the robots getting blown up, cyborgs getting blown apart is giving any sort of therapeutical benefit. There's something there that I think that Hama must have tweaked to that is kind of being spoken to. But yeah, if anyone does know what we think VHS actually stands for in this particular script, then drop it into the comments and let us know, because I had a quick look around and wasn't quite able to figure out what it might be. We did have another little bit of jargon introduced in this particular issue, which is towards the end. The RPG Blinger is mine. I think this is new terminology, a shortening of Blue Ninja to Blinger. What do we think of Blinger, folks? Is it a winner?
I think it's okay if they don't use it too much, but also I'm on record from an early Talking Joe as not liking Joe's shortening other Joe's names. Like I don't want Joe's to call shipwreck ship. I don't want Joe's to call gung ho GH. I don't want Joe's to call stalker stock. I'm trying to think of Joe's with longer names, like downrange. I don't call her down DR or down or downy or downer. Just call her downrange. Diana says, see how Sherlock is holding up her hand. Visual hand signals. Sorry, guys, I was out of the room. Can you put that panel back up on the...
yeah, I'll try and find it. What page was it? It was
page 4.
Okay.
While you do that, I'll just hold mine up to the camera.
To demonstrate what... Okay, you can do that. Where are we? Where are we gone? There we go.
That's a Roger, downrange. I'll confirm with Dawn on the visual hand signal. Right. Cool. Okay. Oh, yes. And then the next panel, she is holding up her hand.
Very good.
With some kind of visual hand signal. Okay, cool. It's funny. Greg Augustin says, I liked it when Chuck Dixon had Duke call him Beach. I respect your opinion, Greg. I feel the opposite.
Beaches, please.
Beach as in beachhead. It's funny because there are all these... I feel like in the last couple of years, there are some Larry Hama acronyms and bits of jargon that showed up in the first 200 or 300 issues of G.I. Joe that haven't been called out, had spelled out as what they are a little bit more recently. And I think that's sort of fun and okay. And, you know, culture sort of catches up. People outside of reading G.I. Joe may know what a certain term or acronym means. And also there have been some times where one that has been spelled out many times over the years recently is spelled out. And I'm reading it and I think, we all know what it means. You don't have to put it on the bottom panel anymore. Going back to my notes. So the Techno Vipers and the Saw Viper have glowing eyes. Yes. And this is a reminder that they are cyborgs, because this is not just a Cobra Terror Drome. This is a Revanche modified Cobra Terror Drome. So this would be stocked with Revanche modified Cobra soldiers, characters. And I'm starting to think that we may not quite ever go back to non-enhanced Cobra soldiers. I think they'll show up in some stories, but I think in sort of a sliding kind of way, this, you know, Cobra Commander and Cobra with humans, and then Revanche with Dr. Mindbender and Revanche cyborgs. I feel like it's just going to sort of quietly melt together, because then you can shoot and decapitate the cyborgs and it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And in the same way that we've had this sort of inflation, you know, this like, what was the term we were using? This like stakes, this like difficulty creep, right? Where the first time the Blue Ninjas ever showed up, they were really hard to defeat. And the Joes, it was like roadblocking someone. They like kept shooting them and they kept kicking them and slashing them. It's like, oh, they've got armor everywhere. Was this in the warehouse in New Jersey back in I forget, the 220s? I can't remember. And then over time, you and I have noticed how the Joes just shoot them now, and they don't seem to be super armored up, and they don't seem to like get up again after they've been shot. And it's sort of like, well, that's now the baseline. Any villain in a G.I. Joe comic, in Real American Hero, you shoot it once or twice and it's taken out, whether it's a human or a cyborg. Sort of like when I was first buying G.I. Joe comic books, they were $1. And now when I buy a G.I. Joe comic book, it's $4. That's just my new normal, folks. And I don't have to like it.
Yeah. And I guess, no prize it. Maybe first time round, they're sort of really pushing out the boat, and there's fewer of them, and they're much more cutting edge. And the Blue Ninjas that we're increasingly seeing are kind of more of a cost cutting, productionized, get them out in volume kind of model, which without as many without the protective elements, and that kind of thing. On the flip side, you could say when the Joes first encountered them, their swords were a little bit dull and they were using normal bullets. And now that they know they are always going up against Revanche robots, their swords are extra sharp and they have big, I'm serious though, sort of bigger armor piercing bullets. Barking Fridge says robots are expensive. Cobra has a budget, This page right here, Mark, that you have on screen, this is page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a good example of a smart professional artist choosing camera angles that are simpler to draw and are still clear and satisfying, right? There are ways to draw a mountain with a jungle around it that will take a lot more time than this one, just as there are ways to draw a couple of particular Cobra soldiers in a sort of headquarters console command room. It's sort of all about sort of how much you crop and how close you get in, right? If we get any closer to this mountain, we lose the scale. We lose that it's a mountain. But because we've got some like trees and ferns and branches in the extreme foreground, and then a little bit of mountain or trees behind it, we can say, well, that's a hill or a mountain. That's not like an ant hill, and that's not, like 40 miles tall, or 4,000 miles tall. That's like 40 miles tall. Similarly, how many people does Krahnke need to draw in this second panel? He draws 2/3 of a Saw Viper, and he draws, 1/4
of a televiper and then like just some heads and shoulders of two others and very little actual tech. And then the fact that it's all blacked out because it's not nighttime, but it's that sort of, night command computer room thing where just the lights are coming from the screens. But then there's just enough sort of tech stuff happening up in the ceiling with those turbine shapes and those cords that I think, yeah, that's the command room of a terror drome. I don't think Andrew Krahnke's taking shortcuts, right? So and he does this on every page, and this page just happens to be a good example of it.
We've got a sort of mirroring component of the Joe team in their kind of darkened room, looking at something else on a screen with poor Duke, Stalker, and Mainframe once again inside, away from natural light, looking at what's going on the screen from behind, from afar. Duke did get out and about in the last couple of issues, so yes. He has been outside and felt the warmth of the natural sun at least once in the last 50 issues, 27 issues. But yeah, it is becoming quite tropey that we've got these three guys always back at the pit observing. And from afar.
I should probably write a letter and I should say, hey, thanks for getting Duke out in the field. I would love Mainframe to go out in the field. Don't forget, he was in the same Southeast Asian conflict, according to his dossier, that Stalker and Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow were. Not that they would have known each other, but, he's a combat guy. And we don't see Psych Out here in the pit in this computer room, but we often have. And man, Larry Hama definitely had fun writing Psych Out's dossier back in 1986, 87. I would love Psych Out to like have a page scene where he talks to a Joe about he's like, debriefing a Joe in a mission and doing some like psychology stuff. Mm. If not, he came with a pistol, he'd just be on a mission. And if you say to me, like, well, what would he do on a mission? I don't care. All of these characters have secondary specialties. And, in this very issue, downrange, definitely a sniper. Sherlock, a sniper. I don't remember, but kind of a sniper for this issue. Sure. So can Psych Out take his pistol and his crazy, he can take his crazy satellite dishes off his wrists. It's fine. But like send him, just put him on a tomahawk, have the tomahawk go somewhere, have it crash. I just want an issue where Wild Bill and Lift Ticket and Psych Out and Stalker and Duke, right? It's a vacation from the pit headquarters, right? They're stuck on a mountain or an island or something. It's Cobra. I'm just gonna plot out this issue and email it to Skybound, and then they'll say we don't accept unsolicited manuscripts.
I was going to say the Mainframe when he was in that field mission in the desert back in an early issue of the ARAH days. But even back then, he was saying that he was getting a bit old for all of that stuff, and that was almost 40 years ago. Here's an interesting observation on this particular page that the Saw Viper, his dialogue is purple and slightly italicized, and because he's a cyborg.
Yes. Yes, and this happens on the first page. I was thinking about how the first page has two hints that there's something else going on, and the first page does not cheat. So these three Joes who are in disguise, if you look carefully, one nun has combat boots, one nun has a different kind of combat boots, and one nun has red pants and ninja shoes. I don't know what else you'd call them, right? Can you zoom in on that first panel? And then in the second panel, there's this Sierra Gordoan militia guy, freedom fighter, I'm not sure. And he says, we know that you are not Sisters of the Holy Order. We know you are spies. We know you were in these hills to spy on our operation. And then I thought, oh, those are purple letters and they're italicized. These are robots. In which case he would sound like this. We know that you are not Sisters of the Holy Order. We know that you are in these hills to spy on our operation. And then he gets shot in the head. Scream! You were going to say something. I think this panel on page 1 that we're zoomed in on might be something that you were going to talk about the coloring in this issue, Mark.
Well, I had this one of Jinx highlighted as one of the coloring treatments where that this panel in particular, but if it's sort of I could almost grab anyone to look in on, but you can kind of see the slightly more active two-tone brush kind of treatment here on Jinx, where Segala is making some quite active choices, and at times on these panels looking quite sort of sketchy in terms of you can see the individual lines that are being applied to create a tone, rather than the kind of the more graduated kind of tones that we're used to seeing from the previous 25-ish issues.
I'm gonna guess that this issue also had a tougher deadline for colors as well as for drawing. Diana says ninja shoes are called tabby, and continues, I know a guy that liked to wear them all the time. Apparently tabby are pretty comfy. Can you go back to, yes, I see what you mean, that in this panel here where Jinx is applying the C4, the highlight red on her looks, I can sort of see Segala's hand like going back and forth with a stylus, like I am right now on screen, like sort of quickly knocking in this highlight, and then you can see it on the wall behind her, on the plates, the sort of like up down jagged line. Can you go back to the first page where you had zoomed in on the second panel? This happens throughout the issue. We're in the jungle and there's tree cover, and so shadows that fall across our characters and backgrounds might sort of look like the shapes of leaves on trees, or like a tree and branch pattern. And what I'm seeing here on this Revant robot is sort of like flat, like I'm looking straight at a window or a wall, rather than like it sort of raking across, the top of its head to the angle of its nose, to like the side of its cheek, to the top of its shoulder, to the side of its shoulder. And I'm okay with that, because this kind of sort of dark, slightly randomized, organic, like it's not like literally the outline of a leaf, but it feels like if you took some leaves and crumbled them up and drop them on the ground, sort of randomized, finger quotes, leaf pattern that's happening across this character. It's evocative if it's not quite literal, and I'm okay with that. And it happens not just on the characters, but also on backgrounds. So like, can you go to pages 1, 2, 3? Can you go to page 5? This is where Sherlock is using a visual hand signal. So yes, it is both the like sort of sketch marks that you were calling out, that Segala is like drawing in, where there's going to be on top of the base lighter brown of the like mountain rock behind Sherlock, there's like the middle tone and then the shadow tone. But also on the next panel, all around CoverGirl, these are shadows that are being cast by the trees, but also sort of like overhead. And sometimes, again, it feels like it's physically in that space, and it's like actually what the light and shadow is doing. And sometimes it feels like it's Segala sort of putting some marks on the screen to make some shadows and some different texture. And I don't think it's sloppy, and I don't think it's random. I think it's a little sketchy and evocative. And again, if I'm guessing correctly, like, can you zoom in even more on Downrange's hand? It's like there's a mark. You see that on her knuckle? There's the like armor thing on her knuckle. And then there's like a shape below that. And the shape goes from her glove to the gun, right? So it's like this little bit of shadow is applying both to the green of her glove and also the blue of the rifle. And I'm fine with that. That's not exactly what that shadow would do from some tree branch or leaf above her, but like close enough. And I think in the same way that, if I'm calling this correctly, Krahnke had less time to draw the issue, but is, as a like smart expert, is just simplifying things, drawing faster, and picking like easier camera angles. I think Segala's doing the same thing. Like the changes in color will be a little bit more sketchy, a little bit more, this isn't quite the word for it, but like randomized, and we'll get enough of the effect. But it's not like, Segala colored the first 8 pages in his normal, beautiful, full, lush way. And then like the next 14 pages are, it's like, well, there's just 3 colors on every page.
Yeah, and an alternate explanation might be a more active choice from Segala to kind of try and match the slight more sketchiness in the art from Krahnke to the treatment that he's taking, which kind of is similar to what he was saying on that Instagram reply that pointed to before.
So CoverGirl can talk? 'Cause in that issue,
she got better pretty quickly.
Did she?
Yeah, I mean, she was shot in the throat.
Yeah.
During the Cobra World Order arc, if I'm remembering correctly.
She's flying home and she's been patched up, but her word balloon is sort of shaky and her like actual word balloon lettering is like scratchy and small. And am I remembering it correctly? Does the little girl say like, "Mommy, that woman's voice is scary"?
Maybe something like something.
Am I making that
up? Yeah. I mean, it's definitely highlighted in that issue. That might be the same one. It might be all that all female issue.
Yes.
Diana says she can talk. Her voice is hoarse. I don't know that outside of that issue, it's been particularly called out, if I'm remembering correctly. But so yeah, I think we can assume that she's largely recovered, and if there's a hoarseness, perhaps we're not, it's not something that we can pick up on because it's not an audio kind of not an audio thing.
I'm not trying to, Diana says, speech therapy is also a thing, boys. I'm not trying to pick on CoverGirl because I know that other Joes have been injured. It's just that injury was so specific, and in that scene where she's flying home on a plane, it gets followed up on in a way that like who's shot in like 195? There's that cover where we're in a helicopter, like Roadblock. And
Lady J gets shot. Yeah.
And she was shot. We were worried. She got better, but her getting shot felt sort of as general as the other times that Joes have gotten shot. And so this like extra scene with CoverGirl just really sticks out in my head, because I thought that might be permanent in a way that when Lady J was shot, it's not like, well, she's going to be on crutches for the rest of the series, or, she's going to go into battle, but she like can't throw her javelins anymore. Like it's as if it didn't happen. And the thing with, anyway, when I mentioned this, you were about to ask me a question, Mark.
I was going to say, Tim, up until this issue, did you know what a stovepipe jam was? Was that something that you encountered before, or would ever have heard that terminology before?
Well, I think once when I went paintballing, I had a jam. So if the question is, have I experienced something like this? A little bit kind of yes. Have I ever heard that term? And has it happened with me the very few times I've fired an actual firearm? But I do like this term, and I love the device of it that, in the middle of a crazy fight, when, a villain is getting closer and closer, all of a sudden you can't trust your amazing weapon.
Yeah, because often, they're subcontracted to the lowest, bidder, whatever.
Or, there's like, whatever it is, there's a little bit of dust, there's a little bit of shrapnel, there's a little bit of metal filing, even the best machines, right?
And yeah, I mean, the Joes have previously made a big thing of like testing every single bullet to make sure that there's not going to be any jam and all that kind of stuff. But I guess there's always an element of unpredictability. Shall I tell you what stovepipe jam is, or do you want to wonder first?
Wait, let me say this one thing and then please tell me. She says, "Arg, stovepipe jam." And then we have enough time for Dawn to decapitate another one and say, "I'm on top of it." And then Jinx to continue saying, "I can't clear the jam." Meanwhile, one's coming at her with an electro sword. And I thought, well, she is a ninja. So could she forget about the gun and kick it? And she did kick one earlier in the issue in the face, enough that its face got kind of smushed. What's a stovepipe jam, Mark?
Stovepipe jam is where there's a malfunction and the spent casing falls to fails to fully eject and gets caught in the injection port, such that it's sort of sticking out of the port and looking a bit like a pipe, like almost like a stovepipe. So where you've got a heating stove and you've got a pipe coming up. So it's a very evocative description. Shane says, "Hi Shane, I have experienced a stovepipe jam at the range for work."
Shane, was a cyborg ninja rushing you with a lightsaber 8 feet away when this happened? And if so, what did you do? Squishy O says, Abraham Lincoln sometimes had a stovepipe jam error with his top hat.
Yeah, evocative. It's it looks a lot like a top hat. And Greg thinks that stovepipe jam was a method to prepare strawberry preserves. It's a type of a jam or jelly, as you Americans might call it, maybe.
Technically, jams and jellies are different things, Mark. I don't know about where you are.
So, like a preserve, like a conserve that you would get out of a pot and spread on some toast. That is jam, right?
Jelly is more processed and is uniform, and jam has more like fruit pieces in it, I believe.
I see.
Why are we talking? Okay. Everyone, please enjoy Chris McLeod with Full Force 20 minutes from now. I'm going to talk about breakfast until then. I just want to go back to this cover, man. What a good looking cover. There's only like 8 colors on it. Did you have, I'm through it. Oh, we do have 2 more things to talk about. This issue, which takes place, Mark, after page 20. I'll start with the one that doesn't involve you.
Okay.
Interestingly, on the Dawn Marino dossier, which is a cool full figure drawn by Chris Mooneyham, 2 bits that I didn't quite realize. One, her military specialty is intelligence infiltrator. Maybe people already knew that because has the classified toy, have people been able to see the back of the box? Do those come with dossiers? Probably not.
They did do a digital file card for Dawn specifically.
Okay.
So there is something on there, but otherwise they have kind of this sort of like icon system that they stick on the box.
Okay.
So
does it say what her military?
I do not remember
okay.
off the top of my head.
Well, if it's not these, that's fine. I'm not upset. There can be a slight deviation between the comic and the new toy. We're just so grateful that Hasbro finally got around to making a classified toy. So that's interesting. I didn't quite, I would have thought, ninja, but that's not a military specialty. Interestingly, her code name, according to this dossier, is Interim Snake Eyes. Now, I don't think anyone's
weird.
No one's actually calling her that, and that's not in any of the paperwork at the pit. But I found it interesting that somehow this page in this comic is admitting that it doesn't make sense to call her Snake Eyes. It doesn't make sense to call her Dawn because that's her first name and it's classified because she's in a top secret military outfit and they shouldn't be running around calling each other Hector and Lonzo and Shauna when they have code names. And so I thought, well, I hope they get around to coming up with a cool code name for her. What's the Japanese word for dawn or sunrise? And also, this is a fun little joke. Under her file name is her birthplace. Oh, Marcus just pulled up the Hasbro classified digital dossier, which did Hama write this? He's not writing them, right?
No, this would be written by Mark. I forget his surname on the copywriter at Hasbro.
Okay. So this refers to continuity from the IDW run. But according to this, her specialties are ninjutsu and infantry. And according to Hama's dossier in the new comic book, it's intelligence and infiltration. Okay, then the other thing, if you can go back to her birthplace is Springfield. And then in parentheses, it says state is classified, which is a fun sort of punchline because G.I. Joe's not going to let on where Springfield is. And every other Joe character, they're from, Washington, D.C. or Tallahassee, Florida, or Houston, Texas, right? Whatever it is. And Dawn's just from Springfield, and the Joes know where Springfield is, but they're not going to say it out loud. And then something else happened at the end of this issue, Mark. It happened in the letters page.
Yeah, it did. Is it? Yeah, it's the first page of the letters. Right. Let's get to it then with a bit of a read of the letters page, and let's play.
Is this Beethoven? Who is it?
Pachelbel.
Okay.
Here we go. Dear Alex and crew, I love it when Larry plays with storytelling structure, and in ARAH 323 we had another doozy, an all baddie issue, 4 enemy factions sharing 20 pages with 5 pages apiece, and it's a great setup for the status quo. Plus, the grand return of so many classic Cobra characters delivers a promise for some great issues to come. Long past issue 323, probably, because we'll get one in space. Anyway, just don't let us wait another 100 issues to see Major Blood again. I hesitate to add more characters into the mix, but the Black Major and the Red Shadows are also another enemy faction that would be welcomed back. Until next time, Yo Joe, Mark, Talking Joe Seddon, plus Talking Joe Podcast.
And then the response comes from someone new. It's assistant editor Caitlin Chappell, who says, "Yo, Mark, we love having a chance to showcase so many of the amazing villains Larry has created. After so many years of G.I. Joe, it's not a surprise there are even more classic baddies we could hopefully feature down the line. Also hoping for more Major Blood sooner than later. Just another great villain who has more story to tell."
There you go.
Congratulations on another letter.
Thank you. I think is it 11, 12? I need to do my add up again, but yeah, something like that. Got a bit behind on the comments, but Greg pointing out that Dawn has a bit of the Jean Grey codename approach.
Phoenix, there you go. Dawn Marino's Snake Eyes codename could be Phoenix.
And Diana, the literal Japanese translation of Dawn is Yoake or Atatsuki, but Dawn in Pokemon is called Hikari, which sort of means light. I
am okay with a G.I. Joe character not having the same name as a Pokemon monster.
Yeah, there we go. Caitlin's the assistant editor on duties, presumably because Alex Antone is so busy with the Kickstarter, possibly.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be ongoing, if Caitlin Chappell is going to be answering all the letters pages from now on, if this is a little bit of sort of catching up with after Alex Antone's leave and all of the extra shipping with silent missions. But
or is it just assistant editors month? If you know, you know. So yeah, I think we're pretty much done with the latest issue of ARAH. A reminder of all of the things that are going on. We've got the Kickstarter still live for a little while longer. Hopefully we can unlock all of those stretch goals. Silent Missions is ongoing weekly until the end of April. Mask is launching very soon, so if you've got a pull box, maybe add that to your pull box at your local comic store.
But be sure to go to your local comic book store, or if you don't have one, maybe your local library on Saturday, May 2nd for Free Comic Book Day, when the Energon Universe offering from Skybound includes a Mask story.
Indeed it does. And the mission continues May the 13th, 2026, when we get our next issue, which following 327, let's get this maths right, it will be 328. That is May the 13th. The secret of Snake Eyes revealed. As Dawn infiltrates the Terror Drome, she learns a shocking secret about Snake Eyes from their time in Springfield. One that could doom their future. Intriguing!
Dave Stewart does not sign covers that he colors, and I wish he would. I always like it when color artists sign covers underneath or next to the artist's name. I think they are allowed to and should be encouraged to.
And I think Diana is saying that it's her fault that Alex is not editing this issue. You guys, Alex is spinning 1 billion plates at a time on any given day and also putting up with me, which can be a lot. And very kindly is prompting people, please be sure to subscribe to Talking Joe. If they reach 2K, Tim will record a new video of the mask theme in costume and everything.
I don't remember promising that. Although I guess Miles Mayhem's costume. A lot of men just already own a jacket.
Just add a bit of gold epaulets or something. That'd be very good. Speaking of which, Tim, where can you be found when you're not talking to me about G.I. Joe or Mask?
YouTube channel, that's Atomic Abe. We got a new video about Supernatural and a new video about the A-Team. I have a comic book store in Somerville, Massachusetts. That is Hub Comics. And I write about G.I. Joe at my blog, arealamericanbook.com. And we are between issues 2 and 3 of my 4-issue Larry Hama superhero miniseries being published right now by Boom Studios. It is great, and it's drawn by Mark Bright, who drew 17 and a half issues of G.I. Joe. So this is very much a G.I. Joe alumni project. G.I. Joe reader put it together and made it happen. G.I. Joe writer writes it. G.I. Joe artist draws it. And Michael Kelly, formerly of Hasbro, is the publisher. That's his title at Boom. So Boom is publishing it.
I think he just got a promotion as well.
Yes, I think he's yes, because 2 or 3 years ago, Boom was acquired by Penguin Random House.
So that is the Center Holds.
Yes, I always forget to say the title.
Which runs for how many issues, Tim?
4 issues. Issue 3 will be out in May, and issue 4 will be out in June, and the collection comes later this year.
Very good. If you are new to Talking Joe, talkingjoe.co.uk is the website that links you all to all of the places we can be found. If you're not on the Facebook group yet, head on over there to see the latest news as it happens and sharing all of those variants covers as they are revealed. And also a big thanks to everyone on the Patreon who found us at patreon.com/TalkingJoe. A big thanks to Richard, Sam, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, D, Shane V2. This one has been squished by a falling boulder. Infinite Entertainment, Patrick, Gary V, Coldroff B, Squishy, Matt, and Edu B, our latest member. They're getting early access to episodes as well as some exclusive content.
Is one of those pieces of exclusive content you and me saying and for 2 minutes?
Yeah, well, yes, I did post on our Patreon a supercut of half an hour of an episode condensed into just the ums and the ers. So if that tinkles your fancy, then head on over to the Patreon. I think I have unlocked that one for public access.
Folks, if that doesn't get you to throw some money at this podcast, what will?
Also, on talkingjoe.co.uk, the website, we've got a link to our TeePublic store. I believe they've got one of their regular discount offers on at the moment. So if you want a slightly cheaper Talking Joe merch T-shirt, then, go and check that out. And Tim, we've also got some shout outs to the Center Holds from Greg, who got the issue number 2 Virgin cover. And Shane, who says it is a good time.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Shane.
Very good. So I think that is us done for this week. But before we go, Tim, would you like to remind our audience of a very important thing that they should, just carry with them for the next week until they hear from us again.
Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Slightly more subdued than normal. And as I joke, we are the Full Force Weekly warm-up show. So if you want to hear the latest from Chris McLeod and his beard, then head on over to the Full Force YouTube channel after this. At time recording, 3 minutes away, where Chris will be going live with the latest G.I. Joe news. So until next time, I think that's us done. Laters.